No, I want to get straight to it. I don't want to hold the people up at all. Toxic masculinity, but I don't want to just start there. I want to know what is a man and what is masculinity to you?
Oh man, that's a great question. So I think in today's culture has really been blurred. I think what it really is. So I think if we talk about masculinity, I think we also have to look at femininity too. So we have to look at both opposite sides there. And so I think to give kind of a short edited version, femininity is going to be more of the nurturing, the caring, more of the compassion, and the masculinity is going to be more of the structure, the more of the outline, the vision, the grind, that type of thing. And so you typically see that if in a healthy marriage or relationship, you usually see the wife is more nurturing of the kids. Hey, how are we going to do this? And what are we gonna, that type of thing. More of that loving tone, let's put it that way. And then the masculine is going, oh no, get up, get to it. No, get this done. What time we got to be there? Is that more of a hard, rigid thing? If I'm just trying to keep it surface.
Yeah.
Trying to go too deep
I
there.
think that was a wonderful example of what masculine and feminine is, and it is important to show the yin to the yang, both sides.
Yeah.
So that was great. Does toxic masculinity come from men, or does it come from like aged males that might have been raised not by men, and so they might not know what true masculinity is? I want to know what's the shade on toxic masculinity, because I think masculinity in itself is very healthy. I think men should be masculine,
Yeah.
and I think masculinity should be taught and passed down to our sons, nephews as well.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, well, I think you're right on point as far as the structure there. I think your first question was, where does it come from?
Yeah.
And so I think where it comes from is going to be our mindsets. And I think so we have to understand that early on from birth, our mindsets are shaped. Okay?
0 to 7 is when you're your most flexible.
Yeah. So that mindset is being shaped, and I'm not going to go into all the biblical, the biological things about it, but I think they're just saying those formative years. When we talk about formative years, let's just say you got certain things happen between 0 and 3, and 3 to 5, that type of thing, and saying during those formative years, the child is usually getting a lot of structure. Now, this blew me away. Some statistics said this blew me away here. It said that a child that's raised by fathers only, no mothers in the house, succeed a lot more and greater than a child that's raised just by the mother. So, but okay, and maybe another perspective of that, they said a child that's raised just by fathers is just as equally as well as a child that has both parents in the house. But if a child has been raised just by the mother, then it drops down significantly.
Yeah.
You got that statistic right there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Go ahead.
Got the statistics. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes.
I can see that.
85% of all children who show behavior disorders come from fatherless homes. 20 times the average. 80% of, I don't know if I can say this word, I'll probably blurt it out, rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. 14 times the average. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 72% of juvenile murderers and 60% of rapists, juvenile rapists, come from single mother homes. 43% of boys are raised by single mothers. 78% of teachers are female. So almost half of the boys, 100% female influence at home and 80% influence at school. Toxic masculinity is not the problem. The lack of masculine influence in the boys' lives is.
Yeah, I would say that when I was looking up this word of when we said toxic masculinity, we talked about here, it refers to cultural norms and behaviors associated with traditional ideas of masculinity that negatively affect both men and society as a whole. It emphasizes traits such as dominance, emotional suppression, and aggression, while discouraging vulnerability, compassion, or emotional expression. While masculinity itself is not inherently harmful, toxic masculinity promotes unhealthy and rigid expectations of how men should behave. I mean, that's big right there.
Where are these expectations on how men should
we
behave
go.
coming from?
Exactly.
I have to, that's what stood out to me. I'm sure that's what stood out to the audience.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Where does that come? Who's expecting this from me? Are you talking about men expecting
Well, this is
from men?
I think if we go back, I think recently, let's just say within the last 100 years, I think we've lost that identity of what a man should be because certain things we can go back even to slavery times or before that, and we have all these things. Well, this is when the man was, emasculated and but still. We can look at the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s, 1920, 1930, 1940. There was still a very strong image of the black male. If we're talking to black audience here, the black male. And don't get me wrong, I don't want us to be so hard on this subject, especially because I know a lot of people in the audience may be in single situations, maybe all that. So I don't want you to, let me just flip this off because they're just going to be talking about this subject. I want us to be able to see from a perspective of our mindset has to embrace what should be. Even if we're not in it, we have to say, this is what I want to go. So therefore, there are plenty of women, single women that have raised strong men. And how did they do that? They encourage, son, I want you to go over here. Go to Johnny's house, go to Bobby's house, and over here. They saw men that were strong and masculine men in the community, and they encouraged their sons to get up under that mentor to help their boys become who they need to be. My mom used to say when I was growing up, my mom would tell me, you walk around like, oh, that's good. She's like, oh, put your hand down, boy. No. That's more feminine. That you walk around like that. No, calm down. And so the thing is, now we take offense to it. That why'd you get the right? No, learn. What are you saying here? You're saying that, hey, I need to control myself. And I need to be that person that is able to be in so control because as a man, there's certain things that I don't get emotional about. Doesn't mean I can't cry. Doesn't mean I don't. It doesn't touch my heart, but it means my emotions are not just on my sleeve. And this is another point here that I say emotions have no intellect.
That's a fact.
Yeah, emotions have no intellect. What does that mean? I could be happy this minute, sad the next minute. I could be, all off, jumping off the wall, bouncing off the wall over here. I could be down, depressed like that. Emotions are all over the place. Men, one key thing, and I'll bring out in the 5 key points before we end. Hopefully, I want to make sure I leave with everybody. But one thing with men is that you need to make sure that, hey, I am grounded, emotionally grounded. That means I have myself together. That even if, boom, something blows up, I quickly am able to gain my strength and composure, and I can say, okay, this is what we need to do. You see, I know what we need to do. Why? Because I've had training, I have backing, and then again, as we go to the spiritual side, I'm resting in God, and so therefore I know, hey, God is my strength, so he's going to get me through this. And then, hey, perfect love casts out all fear. So I don't have to be afraid. It means that, hey, I am aligning myself with what God is wanting to do, and therefore, you know what? I am immortal until I fulfill the purpose that God has put me here. So when you walk in that strength that, hey, nothing can touch me, nothing can hurt me or harm me. If I'm walking in the purpose of God, then what that means is that, hey, as I walk in that purpose of God that God has for me.
Now, Mr. Lemzel, I have to stop you because I just feel like we jumped a step. I feel like we jumped a huge step because you went straight to emotional intelligence and then Christ consciousness. Now, you just said that I was born to a single mother.
Right.
Okay, now if I'm coming from a single mother household or a single parent household, I might not have been taught these things.
Right.
How can I get to a place where emotional intelligence is even a thing, or where me making a logical decision opposed to an emotional decision is a thing? Because keep in mind, I probably I'm only acting out what I've seen. And I probably ain't saying a whole lot of emotional intelligence. Those 2 words are oxymorons in the culture.
Yeah.
Come on, for black males, it's like they oil and water.
Yeah. I think you're on point. I know you're saying, how does that person do it? And I wanted to make sure we contrast these two clearly. If I'm trying. So we have the toxic masculinity, which I think we've kind of really spent some good time there. But I think the flip side of that is for the godly man. And so when we look at a strong godly man, I want to throw some of these things out that as I research this.
Because I asked what was a man was the first question I asked. What's a man?
Oh, yeah. So a strong godly man embodies principles rooted in faith, humility, and love, striving to reflect the character of God in his life. His strength comes from his reliance on God and his commitment to living out biblical values in all areas of life. So let's give you a few here. That's seeking God first. That's living by faith. That's obeying God's word. Okay, that's all with the faithful and devoted to God. On the loving and compassion that demonstrates Christ's likeness, love, shows empathy, protects and nurtures. That connects right there, protects and nurtures. The protect part is good, but nurturing is part of the more the feminine energy. But you see there's a balance there. You got to be balanced there. So the humble and teachable acknowledges dependence on God, seeks wisdom, serves others selfishly, and then with the courageous and resilient, stands firm in his faith, preserves through challenges, leads with conviction. And then through the discipline part, mastery over impulses. You're not just reactive. You're proactive. You're thinking things through. You got it. You mastered the skill. You're going from that point. You live with intentionality. I'm living on purpose. Man, I know where I'm going. I know the direction I'm trying to start. Doesn't mean I got it all figured out because nobody has lived this day before. Nobody has lived this day before. Nobody's lived tomorrow already. So therefore, I have to understand that. What does it mean? But key point is that I am today because of what I did yesterday.
Correct.
I am tomorrow because of what I do today. So therefore, I need to make sure that my decisions today, my choices today are going to be a reflection of the direction I want to go in.
Now, the first of those, I think, was seek his word.
Right.
I definitely want to get back to what you was just on, the topic you was just on, because there's something that I've been working on, self-mastery. That's huge. But how would I go about, I'm just a guy out here. Mm-hmm. I ain't had much teaching from nobody.
Right.
And from what I see from the modern church, I don't just want to just go in there, I don't want to go get judged.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah.
How can I seek his word? I know that sounds crazy, but how do I do that?
Yeah. So I think the thing is, there's some, especially with today's society, I think it's we rely a lot on, I can just get it myself. I'm just self-independent. I'm like that. I do think studying on your own is good. It's good to have that passion and all. That's great to do that. But I really think as you're seeking God will provide for you what you need. And so I think in that essence, God, I need someone to help me understand this. And what I believe, God will send that person to you to really help you get into it and understand and digest what it is. Because one thing, you can read the Bible through. I've read it through several times, but just because you read it through does not mean that you understand how the principles and practical pieces fit together. It's like the Bible's kind of like a mystery book sometimes. You're like, oh, what does this mean? And well, this seems like it contradicts this, and and so you got to understand the context, because there, you got don't quote me on it. You have several different authors. I think 20 or 40. I can't remember. But anyway, you have several different authors over a span of 1,500 years that have put this thing together, and it's just it's so unique how it comes together the way it does. People get into the discussion of, well, why they leave out this book and why they leave out that book. And my take on that typically is, guys, the people that, first of all, they didn't have all the distractions that we have today. And so these guys that have devoted their time, they're praying, they're fasting, they're fasting. So, sometimes they're fasting for months at a time to try to, and looking and seeking God, what should be in here. And so we have to believe at that time that they have really combed through this thing several times. When they wrote this thing, they were writing it so that they didn't want to misspell a word and everything. It was just so the accuracy of it. And then now you get down to it, and science and technology is figuring out, man, hey, this stuff is true. It's amazing. They found the Ark. The Ark is on top of the mountain, Mount Ararat. And then you're looking at it, now they're able to look under the ground. And when they did the scan on the ground, it has these compartments and everything. You're going like, wow. Then
they can see chariots at the bottom of
the Red Sea. Yeah. All those things. So here, to me, these are things that really should solidify that, wow, God, let me stand back. They're going like, on the Big Bang Theory and all this. And they're like, well, this and I was looking at one one thing that's like, well, our galaxy is here, and as far as we can see is here, but we haven't seen here. And if you go on like the billions and billions of light years in here, and you can't even fathom.
No.
The thing, and that's what God said. You can't even fathom. You can't even count the stars. You can't even, just so many numbers, and can't count all the grains of sand, or some analogies that are used in the Bible. But I think coming back to our topic of the man,
you good.
coming back to the topic of the manhood and the man. So I think we have to understand that God has a hierarchy. I know some women may get upset on this one, but God put a certain order in place, and so God. We'll go from the bottom. And this is why I say, would you want your child talking to you any kind of way? As a mom, would you want your child talking to you? No. You say, hold on, I'm the mama. And so the children are up under the mama. Well, then come on, moms, do you want to, if you're going to expect your children to be under order, then you have to understand the man is there. And if the man is under God, and that's the hierarchy, then I don't know any woman that does not want their man to provide and take care of them, or to be bigger than them, stronger than they are, and more wiser, and has vision and insight for their family. I think most women go like, yeah, I want that kind of man. Going to take up for me, going to defend for me, going to take care, make sure he takes me up under his wings. He's make sure I got what I need to be able to do. I think most women be like, yeah, sign me up for that one. He's committed to you and all that, right?
Now, I love what you're saying, and you already know that I'm 100%. I mean, that's the word. Man follows God, woman follows man, child follows mom.
Right.
But this is the thing, right?
Okay.
With all your wisdom and your insight and everything going on, we're moving towards 2025, 2026. It's crazy out here. Can this guy who she's supposed to be under and submit to, can she do that fully if he is not allowing her to stay in her feminine energy? Meaning that she's not burdened by so many of the stresses that's supposed to really come from under being, if she under the shed of her husband or her man, then it's certain worries that he should take on that she shouldn't take on. But since the roles kind of been so reversed right now, a lot of women make a lot of more money than men. That's a fact. Does monetary and financial situation keep women from being able to submit?
Again, I think it goes back to what we kind of open up with, the mindset. Because if I look at
she ain't been taught how to be a wife.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Hey,
that's a problem.
Come on,
and
man.
Hey, we failed.
I really want to talk, Mr. Lemzel.
Yeah,
I want to talk.
Well, yeah, but this is what I'm saying. When I look at the Proverbs 31 woman, okay,
she's a wonderful woman.
She's a wonderful woman, and so when I really did a study on that, I mean, that woman. Oh my goodness!
My wife, this is what she.
I mean, so to me, it is a template, so to speak, that I think all women should strive to be. Not that they have arrived there, but it's a template. And when I look at that Proverbs 31 woman, I'm looking at, man, she's a businesswoman. Man, she's making things happen, but she's making things happen in the light of I'm helping something better. Just like we as men, we making things happen. I got jobs, I got all that thing, but guess what? Everything should be directed to God. I want to lift up your key. I want to make sure I'm inspiring people to hear and know you better and see how you see. And so the woman has to be in that same mind frame that, hey, I want to make sure that the desire that my husband wants is there. And let me get really get transparent right here. So most people know, I don't know if you do, but I almost died in 2008 with a brain tumor. So here it is. My wife had been at home taking care of the kids, raising the kids. She was a stay-at-home mom. And so we were trying to figure that out. So when I got sick and didn't know if I was going to make it, she is the one that went to disability and got me signed up with that and had to go stand in the food stamp lines. And she was the one there, you see? So even when she was out trying to make the money, it was, hey, I'm bringing it back to the home because this is what needs to be strong. And right now, my husband can't do it. So I got to step in and do what needs to be done to hold the family together. You see? And so that what I'm saying is that how much money you make, it's not really relevant per se. What really is relevant is what is your mindset? Because if you coming back with all the money and say, oh, now I make all the money, now wait to parent like that. Now you recognize that hold on, your mindset, your thinking is off. Because now you're thinking that because you're bringing in a significant amount of income, it gives you higher hierarchy. You see, and that's not That's not really the way. In family, you're like, hey, we're here, unity here together, all up under God. And God calls for this order and this structure, you see?
But it seems like the money does do what you just said, bring a hierarchy, and it doesn't matter if it's the male or the female that's bringing that energy into the relationship. Oh, I'm bringing in the bag. I ain't paying no attention to nothing you talking about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's a respect issue.
Yeah. It's a respect issue. So, like, I get what you're saying. Did it start with the mindset? How can I go about changing my mindset? If you see what I'm saying? I'm being serious. From the toxic mindset that I got, whether I'm male or female, you know what I'm saying? Because some guys don't even want to do the masculine things.
Right.
Go bust their butt, go work for some time, figure some things out financially. They don't want to go do any of that, but they want all of the benefits of a woman, but you can't keep her in her femininity.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that is an issue. I think that is an issue, because it's a lot of women that, I hate to do it, but you know what I'm talking about, the strong black woman.
Yeah.
But the statistics just say who they raise.
Right.
So I don't know how, you know what I'm saying? But like the strong black woman, how can she even accept you if you don't?
Yeah. Well, there's a problem, again, like I said, in the mindset, in the thinking. So I'm sure a lot of things that we hear and that we see, there are a lot of justifications of why we want or think the way we do, okay? And so my challenge there is, I think where you're kind of leaning to is we need to go back to the source, because it is what has been proven for time and time again of what works.
I want to get to the root issue. So maybe if we can just help one person, maybe one person can get to some understanding from what the root issue is. And I agree with you. I know his mindset. It's just, it's so hard to rewire. The brain out there has been, 35 years, 40 years, 20, I'm 28 or whatever. It's hard to reset.
Right. Well, I think the key word there you say is hard to reset. And we were talking about this before the show started, was hard is not really is the dominating or the dictator of what it is. Because either way, it's going to be hard. And so the thing is going to be, what do you want? What is your end goal here? What is it's just like an Olympic train or a person that's training for the Olympics. What does that person want? If the person wants the goal and they have studied everything, they know what the top competitors are doing, then that person is saying, hey, I want it more than them, so I'm going to train. Kobe Bryant is one. Kobe Bryant said, hey, if I knew your skill, I'm studying the tape, I'm looking at it, and then matter of fact, I'm practicing harder than you in every area to be better than you.
Mastering.
Yeah, and he calls it the Mamba mentality. Yeah. And so when we look at that, that's the way we have to come about what our goals are, what we want in life. So it's therefore, hey, if I want my marriage, okay, since 60% of marriages fail. And so if I want my marriage, if that's really, really what I'm wanting, then divorce is out of the question, you see? So when we get in the argument, it's not divorce is going to come out, I'm just going to leave you and all. No, that ain't it. It's going to just say, hey, arguing and disagreeing with things is a part of it. And so therefore I have to understand, hey, this is just a part of it, like that. It's just part of living is what? It's breathing. Oh man, I hate to breathe today. Oh man, I don't want to eat. So there now you recognize, okay, well, it's hard not to eat. Well, it's hard just to eat everything. So everything we do, hard or easy, quote unquote, whichever one we want, has certain outcomes. And so I think what we have to do for the listening audience, and for everybody that may be hearing, is that we have to understand is, I think what throws us off the most is lack of vision, which means we have a purpose and a reason for doing everything we do.
That was it. That was the setup. So, lack of purpose.
Right.
Okay, that's got to be one of the top things in becoming a man.
Right.
And going back to the very top, what I was saying is not a aged male, but a man.
Right.
Men have purpose.
Right.
Okay, how do I find my purpose?
How
do I find my purpose?
Statistics say that 95% of people in the whole world do not know their purpose. So finding this purpose it is a journey. I think I love Rick Warren's book that talks about purpose-driven life. It kind of gives a good focus and a direction. I've written several books on purpose, and so there I have 5 purposes that I said, or 5 areas that you have to go in. Toward the end, I want to share, what I call the hand of true character, which I think every man needs. And it was something that I've studied and come up with. But I think when we talk about purpose, we have to understand, first of all, it comes because we slow down. And like I said, regretfully, I had to slow down because of my health. I thought I was dying. So I think it's a time to reflect and go like, okay, man, what am I really doing? I mean, I was doing great things. I was doing Neighbor Christian Center and mentoring you guys and taking y'all out there, then went to the other side of the country, so to speak, and helped a lot of young people out there and did the same type of programs out there. And then went to, Memphis and did the same thing there. And now work with
purpose has
everything.
Time too, right? I definitely feel like it had to be your purpose to be doing a neighborhood Christian center in the 90s when I was able to benefit from that mentorship. Right. You see what I'm saying? So it felt like it was your purpose for me anyway. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it was a part of it because of my parents and again listening to that wisdom and guidance there. That's why I said that godly wisdom is very, very important. And so having good guidance enabled me to be able to start early and be able to impact many lives early, you see? So that was just kind of a God-given, that wasn't my choice. It was just saying God said, hey, this. And so he enabled me to grasp that and learn it and everything, and then boom, be able to do things. And so therefore, at a young age, I was 24, when I did that. So at a young age, I was boom, impacting them, those many lives. However, when we come back and say, well, somebody didn't really have that type of beginnings that you did.
That's what I was just sitting here thinking, like, Mr. Lemzel, like, you know how blessed you are just by being born in wedlock? Like, I get it. It's actually verses in the Bible that tell us about how blessed we are. Yeah, and then at the same time, it also tell us about bastards. So what about the bastard child? Yeah. That I just, I got all the curses of being a bastard. Right. And I don't got a whole lot of wisdom, and I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So I heard this. I'll open this up with this for you. I heard there are illegitimate parents, but no illegitimate children. If I think I'm saying that right. Okay?
And that's all
right. So what that means is that the parents may not have decided or wanted this child to be born, but God, in what Scripture says, God says that, hey, I knew and I formed you. So even though you may be a bastard child from society and standpoint like that, because in essence, that's what Jesus was considered. He was outside. Okay. So this is my thing. And I mean, throughout the Bible, you can look at these scenarios where great men were used that came from a real messed up and jacked up situation. Okay. So I think what we have to look at there is that when we come from that situation, does it define us? That's really where I kind of want to go there, is that because if it defines us, then we allow those labels to shape and mold our future. You see? Yeah. Just because I had, I came from a mother and a father, and they were very trained and all that, and they were training me, things like that, did not mean that I had to accept it.
No.
There's plenty of people in the same situation. Man, they denied it. They just, they just said, man, bump that, that type of thing. But it's going to be again. Did I embrace it? Did I take it on? Did I get it from my head to my heart? That 18 inches, they said that a lot of us will miss heaven because of the 18 inches. We got it in our head. We know the knowledge, but it has not resonated into who we are. It has not become a part of it. The heart is what we really, truly believe. And let me define belief there. Belief, when we say belief, it means absolute assurance on a particular thing or subject or idea, okay? So when I believe something, you can't say you believe something and then show signs that you're doing something totally contrary. That ain't the way it works.
You count.
Yeah. So I give an example. We're sitting in these chairs right now. My feet are not touching the ground. I believe, absolute assurance. I'm sitting here, absolute assurance that this is true, you see? And so whenever we say we believe something, I believe that my wife is my wife. If I believe she's my wife, then I'm not trying to go out and do other. My mom tells me when I travel and speak at different places, she said, don't forget who your wife is now. Don't get over there and have these nice little pretty honeys, telling you that they can serve you as your wife. You see? So what is that saying to me? It's saying that, hey, what do I believe? Do I believe the sacredness of marriage? Do I believe that a man, and come back to masculinity, do I believe a man should have his values so starch and so where they should be, so they direct his path and what he does and how he communicates with other attractive women? I mean, I don't know if you know this, but just because you're married doesn't mean that women stop becoming attractive.
No.
They start looking good, man. You're
Yeah.
scrolling through TikTok. There's one like, ooh, wee, man, like that. Seem like she's so, man, like that, you see? And the thing is, there is the discipline of, I see her, but I don't let it get into my heart. I can keep going. But some of us, man, we get there and we start, man, undressing and start, desiring and start going there. And that's when we get from this masculine, godly, strong man over into the toxic masculinity.
I was just about to tie that in with the fact that you just brought up I'm married and women are still looking good.
Yeah.
And maybe I work abroad, or maybe I do travel work like you do, and I'm in different places.
Right.
I have different opportunities.
Right.
There could be some cute chick in the audience, you know what I'm saying, that's digging me. You know how it's been said that like men aren't, that we're external. Mm-hmm. So since we're external, we're not being penetrated. I'm just go ahead and give it to you raw. Pause.
Yeah.
So since we're not external, since we're not internal, we're external, we're not being penetrated, that it don't mean that much to us. Is not a emotional attachment like that, and that men are promiscuous, and they just supposed to be, promiscuous and have, different type of affairs. But even in their marriage, it's okay for men. Isn't that's a part of the toxic masculinity, right?
Yeah, it is.
Mindset, right?
Right.
How do you feel about that right there, though? Should men sow their royal oats before they get married? Is it an appropriate age for men to start dating?
Ooh, you got loaded questions, man. My brain is going like, okay, trying to compartmentalize everything. All right. So, oh man, let me. This quote is really sticking in my head when you first started.
Go ahead.
It is that it said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Right. My granddaddy used to say that.
And so you have to recognize, what does that actually mean? It means that I have to have values. My core values are so strong that I'm willing not to just live for them, but I'm willing to die for them. That's what it means. Hey, I'm going to stand for something. That means even when it's uncomfortable, it doesn't feel good, I'm not accepted, it may be ostracized, and whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's saying, hey man, this is who I am.
Some men stand with nature. This is who I am. I can't help that my, my external joint, is moving around like this, but to this lady, that lady.
Great thing.
Struggle to the east, west, one I love the best. What about that? What if I'm standing on nature?
So
would he not be standing on something that's a fact, because we were born in flesh.
Yeah.
And the flesh gonna be flesh.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there.
Would he be lying?
I'm glad you went there. So, and this is where, the scripture teaches us that we have to crucify the flesh.
Yeah.
And subject it and deny it. And even our thoughts, because you got to recognize our body is going to do nothing that our brain ain't telling it to do. And so that's why, it comes in and said, take every thought captive and bring it unto the submission of God. And so here I have to recognize that I can't, if I am looking at porn, 4 hours a day, I'm looking at porn, I'm listening to music that's telling me something, related to it and everything like that. My mind is full of all of this stuff that will justify my flesh.
I'm going to do something.
You see?
If I'm watching porn all day and listening to sexy red them, I'm going to do something.
You're going to do something. And guess what? And I get home and my wife's cycle is on.
She playing?
Or she playing. She said, I don't feel like it today. And she done told you she didn't feel like it for the last 2 weeks.
All right.
You see what I'm saying? And you saying, you know what? You ain't satisfying me, and this sweet honey chick over here, man, is looking good. She's smelling good, man. She whispered in my ear. She's been whispering in my ear all the time. And then what happens? We end up turning in, yield to it. And guess what? I don't know how X-rated you want to go.
It's fine.
Let me bring it up. But,
you got it.
But most time you haven't been making love, man, your eyes are closed. For guys, you get a glimpse. But man, you getting a glimpse, you're not technically looking at so that part of the physical body is just physical body, biology. You see? And so you don't look at that. So what are you looking for deeper? And this is where we really get into the point that when we get to that point, that sex is not really just a physical act. It's going to be a soul-tying spiritual thing. And then when you get into that part and look at the spiritual soul ties that come with, that means that every time I'm making love to my wife, I'm becoming one. Out of all the people in the world, I've chosen to become one with this person, and our bond is coming there. And so therefore we know, because of that union, that, I don't know, there's another part of biology, but when you plant sperm inside of her, Biology teaches us that she takes on some of the DNA of you, okay? And so that's why they said when women have high body counts, they have a lot of DNA of all these other men, and this is one thing that's scary, and that DNA is associated with spirits. And so that's why you have women that are prostitutes a lot of times commit suicides, because those spirits are in them, and they're saying all these voices they can't.
I apologize for interrupting you, but that's why I tell men and young men who are single, and when I say single, I mean unmarried. So dating men, long-term relationship men, whatever. That's why I tell men, if she is promiscuous, if she cheats on you or something like that, get on out of there. That's why I advocate for completely just leaving the situation.
Yeah.
Did you just hear what you just said?
Yeah.
These spirits are in her.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That just please finish.
You ain't gonna lay pipe well enough constantly that's going to be able to combat all this. She will continue to compare you to other people. And they will be there. And there will come a time that you're not laying it right. And she's going to make a decision that, you know what? Johnny Boy was pretty good. I'm going to go check out Johnny. Johnny Boy been calling me. He been texting me and all that. You see?
Johnny Boy him.
Yeah.
He the man.
Yeah. And so therefore that's it. Now this is real deep here too. They said women, I heard a female psychiatrist, she said women don't necessarily cheat. She said if women cheat, they have already
checked out.
They've already checked out. Yeah. It was like that. That's
I heard that too.
Yeah. And so therefore we have to recognize if they've checked out, I have to recognize that there's that spiritual attachment there has to come in. And all this comes down to commitment. If we're aligning ourselves to God, since God is going to be the author of all this, God is the author of male and female. That's it. If you want to get biological here, a penis and a vagina. I mean, you can see they fit. The anus is not open for the anus is for exiting. It ain't for entry stuff like that. I mean, so just the biological thing there. So what the Bible says that that we turn in the last days. Men will give up give up women and go to men. So it's stated there. But my thing is for the people that are listening is just saying, hey, can we frame our minds to say, what is the standard, and what is God requiring, and then how do I push closer to that mark? And have a relationship with God that I desire the things that God desires. And if you're not in that alignment, then you're going to be obviously deteriorating back to just what the world wants. It's going to be what you want. And there's no satisfaction in it. That void is not going to be filled. There are plenty of people I've counseled that have slept around, got 100 body count, 100 plus, and they are just at a point where they're saying, I thought this was going to fill this void. Man, and it's not there. It's this void, it's this hole in your heart that's just like this uneasiness. You going out and get it, and that one doesn't feel it. And you go to this next guy or next girl, and she ain't hitting it. There's something wrong, and you're just going on and on and on. And that's when you're out of the alignment that you need to be in. It's like a car out of alignment. You're out of alignment where you need to be, and you're steering. You're going to constantly be fighting, trying to get it back in there. And God is saying, come to me. If you just submit, as we talked about earlier, get yourself back in alignment, then you can recognize, hey, I can take my hands off the wheel. I love the new cars today that you put on the automatic thing, and it automatically keeps you in there. And that's to me a great symbolic of what God does. It's when you are truly surrendered to Him and in alignment with what He wants you to do, and you allow Him to take the wheel, He keeps you right in between the ditches. Oh, man, it was great.
Now, some of the things you just said would relate to what we spoke on earlier, which is making emotional decisions and having emotional intelligence. Now, if I'm comparing, if I got a high body count as a male, because we're talking about men today, so if I got a high body count and I'm a male, naturally, I'm gonna have some of those feelings. I'm not gonna be able to help but to do some comparison. Now, how do I renew that mentality right there? If I'm like, I want to be with this person. I love this person. This person the one. Even though I've been damaged, or I've been a crash dummy. I've been just crashing myself against the wall. With these bodies. And are people ruined if they done had too many bodies?
No, I think there are some scarring that's there, but what comes to mind, and I was a little bit at that point when my health was challenged. I had to, the brain tumor kind of took over. I had to learn how to walk again to a certain extent, drive again, and all that. So, man, it was a great fear. It was a great fear of driving and not being able to control, because I don't know we kind of, if you've been driving for a while, you kind of you feel the steering wheel going to the right and to the left.
Don't even think of it.
Yeah, you don't even think of it. You just kind of naturally do it.
Yeah.
But when you stop driving for some years, you don't drive anymore. You get back in and you're back to like that little teenager that's 12 or 13 years old. And every move is like, you're trying to do this back in there because you hadn't gotten there.
Man, this wheel is sensitive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you're saying. And the brakes, you're like, and you're trying to get it. You got to relearn it. And that's what I am. So what I would say to you is that when a person has a high body count, come on, you weren't born that way. You weren't born with a high body count.
I know, but now I'm more mature. I'm getting older. I do got a high body count, and it is certain things that it was certain spirits that happened, and
right.
His succubus and incubus was happening.
Yeah.
So when I was building these body counts, so I might feel a way. I might have some mental block that's telling me that I need to go see Susie Q.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So let me. So when I said you weren't born that way, to say that the high body count was there. So I'm just saying there was a time in your life where you didn't have that.
Right.
And that mindset wasn't there. And so over time, you have grown into this mindset and this thinking that, hey, it's okay because for me to go hook up with Sue or whoever, Jane, or for Jane to hook up with Bob and Bill, whatever, like for them to do that, there's a mindset. I mean, it comes to a decision, unless you've been raped, but it comes to a decision where you have to say, I am going to give myself to this person and we're going to become one. You see? I got to make a conscious decision to take my clothes off and everything like that. And boom, got to get in a position, whatever. So I'm just saying during that time, the mindset you're putting to the side that this is not wrong, I'm putting in that, hey, it's all right. I'm just going to fulfill. And so therefore, all of this thinking of it's okay, let's go through it with it. Hey, boom, boom, boom. Hey, you got the climax, and the climax, oh man, that was good. That was good. That was good. That was good. Then what happens? And you start going like, oh man, why I do this, man?
Regret,
man.
Instantly.
Yeah, man.
Instant regret.
Man, what is she pregnant, man? What if condom broke, man? What if you see? So you start going through all that stuff and you're like, that's it, man. When you're married, and his wife, like, man, bump it, man. Shoot. Come on. The freedom. And the freedom I can look back and say, no, she's the only one I've been with. So ain't no woman gonna come up and say, oh, I got your baby and everything. Oh, man. Even though plenty of girls in college that was like, yeah, I want to have your baby. But no, man, no, we ain't going down like that. Why? Because, again, I had vision. Say, hey, later on in my life, I want to reap the blessings. I want to be able to look back and my kids don't have to say I got stepsister over here, brother, like that. And again, I'm not trying to condemn anybody that's in that lifestyle. But what I want to do as people that are mature have to say, hey, we have to speak the truth and we have to speak the standard so therefore people can know it. If we don't say it, then what happens is people say, I never heard that. I didn't know that. Nobody said anything to me. So then they're subjective to all of the problems and the things. So to me, these conversations and these talks like this, and you tuning in like this, hopefully I hope you stay tuned in and not flip to TikTok and keep scrolling. But hopefully this is empowering your mind to say, hey, there is hope for you. Okay, number one. And there's hope in knowing that there is a better way. Not going to be easy. Even the life you choose that may feel good now is not going to be easy later on. Both of them are hard. And so, but the thing is, hey, we're saying make those hard choices in discipline because success only comes through discipline and suffering and pain and struggle. I mean, you're disciplining yourself here on this end. So therefore, on the latter end, I can try to sell. So
to be a man, there is no easy way out. You're going to have discipline, self-control.
Yeah.
Did you say hard times?
Hard time, yeah.
Hard times.
Pain.
Pain. It is so you're going to experience this on the road to being a man or just being a man.
Being a man, period.
Period. You're gonna.
Yeah.
Once I'm a man, I'm still gonna experience pain.
Yeah.
And difficulties and things of that nature.
Yeah.
It don't stop.
No, it doesn't stop. This is what changed. What I feel that changed. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm the absolute thing. I believe what changes is your mindset. And what I mean by that is that have you ever start working out early in the morning, like 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna get up 5 o'clock. And at the beginning, you're like, oh man, I hate this, man. And then about a month or two in, you're like, man,
it's
nothing.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, you're going like, oh man, yeah, I get up at 5 in the morning, I work out like that. So what I'm saying is that it's still hard. It's still, you probably rather sleep. But because you've gotten into this mindset of, hey, this is what I do. I like the benefits. I like the way I feel. I like the way I'm growing and all that. Even though it's pain, I recognize that discipline is bringing me closer to my goal. And that's what I'm saying with anything in life, especially with manhood and masculinity and getting to the strong godly man. Those things require discipline. So the thing is that you start setting in place those things you want. So for me, I'm usually up at between 4 and 5 in the morning. And so I spend my time. I have several different apps. I have a Bible app, so I'm listening to the Bible for about 30 minutes. And after that, I'm listening to 2 or 3 dynamic speakers that speak into my life every single day. So that's about an hour and a half right there. And then I may do some reading. I may do some things like that. And then I'll go work out. I work out for about 15, 20 minutes every day. And so there's a regimen that I have usually between 4:30 and 5 and sometimes 6 and 7 o'clock. Whether I'm walking the dog or anything like that. So it's just a regimen. And that's what I get. Do I do it every single morning? Oh,
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But that is my regimen. And so when I don't do it, I get out of the habit of doing it. And that's what I'm saying. We have to develop that system and that mindset to say, this is how we roll. This is our MO. And when we get to that MO level, that this is what's ingrained in me, this is what I do. And when that's based on truth and on being the godly man and having the structure and being the strong godly man we're talking about, then I think we understand that it becomes easy, because it's not easy, but it becomes easy to our minds because our body is now in alignment.
You was just talking about the repetitions. Now, I want to ask a question, and then I'll also, after you answer the question, I want you to, the keys to a godly man, I think it might have been 8 keys. I want you to just repeat those.
Read those, okay. And then I have those 5. I'll make sure we have enough time.
Yeah. No, you got it. Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
But the question is, you don't mind being separate from the world. I just hear that in your tone and everything that you're saying, because those are the major keys, basically, to becoming a man, becoming a godly man anyway. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's another form of man, but becoming a godly man, it seemed like it was a lot. So you remember the spot in the Bible that the people asked God, God was the ruler over the people, and the people asked God, we want a king just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So do you know, that was the mass majority of the people asking God that. So the majority don't want to be set apart. They don't want to be ye separate from the things of the world. You see what I'm saying? They want to be of the world and in the world. Now, if I'm of the world and in the world and I want to make a change to try to become a godly man, because I just said I'm of the world and in the world, what would be that first step?
I think the first thing is again accepting where you are. Like I say, hey, okay, I'm not where I need to be. And then identifying, where do I want to go? Where do I want to be? I'm not this husband that I want, that I see and know I can be. I'm not this person because I'm sleeping around. I got all these, bodies that I'm attaching to. I got all these spirits, blah, 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 all these things. And so I think when you get to that point where you say, okay, this is where I am. And we call it, in the spiritual world, we call it confession. I acknowledge that I messed up, okay? And then I think that the next part there is what we say is repentance. And repentance means I establish that new mindset that this is not the way I need to go. So I change my thinking. And so how do we change our thinking? That comes with a lot of different factors. That comes with, what you're listening to, what you're watching, the people you hang around, all of that. And so what has to happen is, there was a great analogy, I don't have it, but it was a great analogy I saw. And this person had a glass cup like that. And so it was full of water. And they said, this is the way hurt, sorrow, bitter, and the list goes on and stuff like that. And she took some food coloring and she dropped 1 drop in there. And she said, okay, that drop is in there, and see how it's changing the color of the water. And she said, so what comes back is we recognize, and she started pouring clear water in there. And it took time for it to filtrate out to get back to clear. And she said, that's the way our lives are. She said, sometimes something traumatic has happened to us. Something that's going on. And she said, it may have lasted one time, or maybe it's repetitive, like a rape or something like that. It's going over and over and over and over again. So she said, think about it. Every time I put a drop in there, she said, how dark that water gets. And this has happened, let's say these represents, a year. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 years this is going on, how dark that is. And she poured the water in. She said, so the more darker it is, the more water it takes, the more time, the more pouring in it has to happen. And she's like, look at that. And she poured in another jug, and she poured in another jug, and it still had some discoloration in it. It didn't come clean, you see? And she said that's the way it is. So that's the way it is with our lives. And so hopefully that concept is really, sinking in with everybody. Yeah. Because I think when we talk about toxicity, toxic men, there is a lot of discoloration that makes that so. If I'm toxic, I didn't get toxic overnight. There's a lot of men hurt and bitter and stuff that happened to me and, years of whatever like this, abuse and all. Man, it's a lot of stuff that made me hard, man. I'm hard. Shoot. Yeah. No, you ain't going to break me down. So what I'm saying is that what has to happen is we have to look at what are we putting in that will decimate that hardness, that toxicness in there. And I think what we have to look at is when we're pouring that in, we do have to be mindful of what are we listening to? The music that we're listening to, the podcasts we're listening to, the things, are we listening to gossip, or are we listening to those things that's pouring more darkness in us? Are we listening to those things that are pouring pouring light and hope and direction and guidance into it, you see? The more we get that in there, the more we get rid of it. But guess what happens if you do that and you put another drop in there? That drop, just like all the other darkness in there, it's going to continue to
contaminate.
That's right. So a lot of times what people do, I see, they listen to all this music throughout the week. They're watching all these videos, these movies and things throughout the week that they know is not good, it's toxic and everything like that. And then they go to church on Sunday and they go like, praise God like that. And so now they got a little pure water going in there. But then throughout the week, they're putting all these other drops in there. You see? So therefore now so you're going to be toxic. So the thing is that what you have to recognize that the Bible says that the flesh is against the spirit. It's constantly warring against it. Mm-hmm. And so what I have to do is I got to feed the spirit. So there again, I have to take time, be serious. Being masculine means I got to man up. I got to man up and say, hey, no, man, I got to do these things. I can't listen to all this stuff. I got to put aside that. I got to throw it away. I heard Philip Michael, he's one of the preachers in Atlanta. And he was talking about cut off, the verse that talks about cut off your hand, gouge your eyes out. Yeah. He's not talking about, doing that. But what he's saying, take the sincerity of it, that you do what is necessary to make sure it does not exist anymore. So I'm not trying to tell you cut off your private parts and be mutable. But what he is saying, that if I recognize when I look at these women, or when I get around these women, when I get around Sally and them and all that, I tend to say stuff that's not right. And I tend to do that. And you recognize and God brings it to your mind. You have to say, hey, I can't do that anymore. I'm going the other way. And that's when you're serious about growing. It's difficult. It's hard, as we stated, but I'm serious about growing and getting to a better place.
So first would be recognizing where you at.
Yes.
And then it would be
changing the mindset.
And feeding the right. It's two beasts in each man, and feeding the spirit opposed to the flesh.
Yes,
man, that's hard stuff. Just right there, feeding the spirit opposed to feeding the flesh. I'm speaking for the 90% of the time.
It's hard. I mean,
I have to speak for them because I know for myself just how hard it is to bring yourself under subjection, especially your flesh. Yeah. When this ain't a thing that you really do. It's just been. You live in nature.
Right.
It's natural to you.
But let me add this in there. It's hard to submit the flesh to the spirit.
But you ask, what do I want for my end goal?
Right.
And it's not being a undisciplined man.
Yeah. So it's just let's bring this over to the analogy of eating. Man, I love to eat everything I want to eat, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Man, cake, ice cream, French fries, man, those are two of my favorite right there. Cake, ice cream, and French fries, man.
Horrible.
Yeah.
For the human body.
So that's what I enjoy. And the flesh loves it, man. I love the way it tastes. I love the way, man, it feels. It's just good, Just, man, put me a little salt on them. All right, anyway, go. So you see what I'm saying? But even though I'm enjoying it now and I feel that it's easy now to eat anything and everything I want.
There's a penalty.
Yeah. And so it makes it hard for me later on, you see? And so now I got to recognize I got this extra weight on me. I can't breathe. Man, I can't exit my heart. I'm starting to have some heart stuff and everything like that. So what I'm saying is you've made it easy. Eat what you want. Do what you want. But then I'm saying later on, you're going like, hey, man, I turned 40 and 50, 60, man. Now I got to recognize, man, it's really difficult for me to get back up because I can't do it like I like I thought it. And I gotta really work hard to try to get it back under control. You see what I'm saying? And so so when you say hard, it's just, is it hard now or is it hard later? And it does. There's no perfect way. Well, if I do work hard now, it's never going to be hard. No, it's not that. It's just again the mindset. No, this is the way I roll. You see, and so I'm used to it. And that's what kind of Kobe Bryant was. No, that's the way I roll, man. I practice hard. You know, that's what you say. I practice hard. Kobe, Stephon Curry. I mean,
man, he must practice a lot.
you see, he makes 500 shots per day.
Yeah.
That's 152.
The people that you're
shots
referencing are absolute psychos mentally at what they do.
They do, yeah.
Now, the only reason I'm being an advocate right now for the YOLO guys is because it's a lot of guys that you only live once.
Yeah,
and you know, I take that saying a completely different way.
yeah.
But
it's how you look at it. Yeah,
it's the guys who look at that from the negative aspect, or they don't even know that they're looking at it from a negative aspect. And I just want to try to bring them some help. And I think we was able to achieve. I just feel like we helped somebody